Hi everybody, today we're going to be continuing with our training on Microsoft Access databases. We're going to be looking at tutorial 3 today, which is how to import information into an Access database. And we're going to be looking at queries, which is basically searches within our tables. We're going to be using Microsoft Excel as a template for the importing of data. So the scenario here is that we've got information that's being stored in Excel. We want to start with taking that information that is pre-existing from Excel and bringing it across to Access so that we can run some queries and searches within that parameter. So to do that, first of all, in the email that I will have sent you, you should have received an attachment, a Microsoft Excel attachment. And what I want you to do is essentially just copy that that spreadsheet and place it into your desktop. So I'm looking for that Excel now to show you. So if you go to Microsoft, what I've done is I've created a folder called Microsoft Access, and I've pasted that spreadsheet into that folder. So it's called Importing Excel to Access. So that's the spreadsheet that you would have received in the email, and it's sitting in my folder, my Microsoft Access folder. So what I want you to do is, if you haven't already opened your Access database that you've created, at this stage we have only got the two tables, company database and student table, and we're going to import another table. So first of all, what we want to do is go to click the external data tab. So over here we've got external data, and what we want to do is bring information across from Excel. So click on Excel over here, and we want to import. So what we want to do is I believe it's this one here. No, it should be this one here. Import the source data into a new table in the current database. And then we want to go to Browse. And we go to Desktop. And Microsoft Access contains my spreadsheet, so I've clicked on that. And I click on OK. So this is my spreadsheet and the data that it contains. I'm just looking at our exercises just to give you an idea as to where I'm up to. So I've done up to step 6, and I'm up to step 6. Step 6 says to click on Next. So I've got showing my worksheets. I've got 3 different worksheets. So within my spreadsheet, I've got worksheet 1, 2 and 3 down the bottom, so it's showing that. If I go to worksheet 2, worksheet 3, it brings up that information, so that's all good. I'll hit Next, and it's got here the first row contains some data that can't be used for valid access field names. Wizard would automatically assign valid field names. That's fine, we'll do that. We'll let Wizard assign. The first row contains column headings. That is correct. We'll just double check that. Let me just double check my spreadsheet. So if I go back, yes, so this is my spreadsheet, and you can see that the first row up here contains my headings. So I just wanted to double confirm that is the case. So therefore I'll pick a tick, I'll tick that. Without the tick, you can see here that it includes the heading. By ticking it, it creates that as a heading. So I'm happy with that. I hit next. So employee ID, so it's essentially giving me the field options. I can change the data type and whatnot. So for example, that contains numbers as well as letters. Short text is fine. Short text, yes, yes. Title, short text, that's all good. Data type double. So what's actually happened here is Wizard's actually gone through date and time, and it's actually worked out the best type of data to be entered in these fields based on what's existing. So it's all good, nothing needs to be changed here. We hit next. This is important. So I'm up to step number 2 before queries. I want to choose my own primary tab, and I want to select employee ID in this field to be my primary key in order to search for each record. So each of these are called a record within Microsoft Access, and each record's got an ID. And what I've done is I've used the pre-existing identification numbers for each of these employees as a primary key to identify these records. So that's all good. We'll hit next. It wants to give it a name. Import to the table. Looking at this, it's asking us to call it employee ID as a name for our table. Sorry, not employee ID. I want to name it as employee database. Just like that. So we're happy with that. We click on finish. We don't want to save the import steps. That's no worries. Click on close. So now you can see here that automatically it's created a table within our database for students, and you'll find all the information from our Excel now in this particular table. So that's all good, that's what we want to see. So now what we're going to do is practice queries, and as I mentioned earlier, queries are a method of saving steps on how to search for information within our database. So once a query is created, automatically you can refer back to that query if you want to allocate the information based on a criteria. So we're going to create a query now and see how it works. So we go to Create tab over here, and we want to design a query, or query design. So we go to here, and we want to select our student table to build our query on. It gives you 3 different options based on the tables that we have. So we'll click on Add, and what this does is it creates the fields or the records, or the fields for the records that are going to be used in the query. So I'm up to the 4th step there. So essentially my query is going to consist of first name of my students. So we do this, we click on Add. Oh, close that. We don't need this second one. Move table. So it's going to consist of my first name, so it's going to populate my query here. So this is the parameters of the query here. Then I've got last name, and I've got phone number. So the database is going to search the following fields, and once I've done that, I can now run this over here, and it will create a query and only display the fields that I've selected in my query, as you can see here. Right, so this contains all the records that we have in our database and only displays the query fields that we've chosen. Now, the next part is sorting a query. So we can click on the arrow here and we can sort it A to Z, for example. Because that's all that we need to do for sorting. It's not much more that we can do. Student names alphabetically. So that's all we need to do for the sorting. Now we come across to saving the query. So we right click on the query over here and just go to save, and we need to give it a name. So we'll give it a name, and it wants us to use name and phone numbers as a name for the query. So then you've got your query appearing here. So we've only created the one query, and here it is. So now we're going to use this. Now we're going to use the query by running the query based on a criteria. Okay. So if we click on the query itself over here, and then go to View, and go to Design View. I'm going to now put in a criteria. So the criteria will be, I only want to see those records of students that have got a surname Smith, as an example. So I've typed that in, and then I've hit Run, and what this will do is it will bring up all the records that exist in my database for those students with a surname of Smith, and it displays that as follows. So if I want to go back to Design View here, View, Design View, and remove that and hit Run again, it will then just show me all the fields. So another example could be same sort of thing. I can go to View, Design View, and have a look for any students with a first name of John, as an example. I hit Run, and it finds me John's details and his phone number. So let's assume here that I was looking at calling John and I need his phone number. I would run this query, and I'd put in John's number, and then hit Run, and then it will bring up his details and his number. So this is how this could be used, and this could be saved. This will be saved so that if another user wanted to do the same function, that they will actually go into this query and run it and bring up the details that they're looking for. So that's how queries work. So we've covered two main aspects here. One is obviously showing you how to import data existing from Excel into Access, and we looked at how to design a query and how to use a query. Thanks for listening.